Welcome to a very special episode of Sailing Indiana.
We're bringing this to you separately from our normal schedule because it's being brought to you in association with Savvy Navvy.
So, what does a special episode actually mean?
We've been using Savvy Navvy since we started with boat life. We've found out different bits of the app, or the app's developed and it's got better and we've got more knowledgeable about things. This is going to be like a kind of combination of all of those things put into one episode. The idea is that we're going to stretch it over a passage from Brighton Marina, where we currently are, to Falmouth Marina, where we want to be. So this will be over a number of days, and we'll just take you through the initial passage planning and how Savvy Navvy, the app, helps us with that. And then we'll show you it whilst we're on the water and how we use it for that and all of the kind of quirks of the app. It should be kind of all encompassing. And if you are thinking about using, an app for your navigation, we hope that this will be able to explain a lot of it and answer any of the questions that you might have had.
So this won't be us just blindly plugging Savvy Navvy to you. That's never our intention. We want to do something that we think will actually be helpful and beneficial to you and us. So this will be a very honest account of our experience with Savvy Navvy, how the app works, how it's worked for us with the passage planning, has it made it easier, all the kind of negatives and positives as well. So hopefully you guys enjoy, and if there's any questions, let us know, and anything you think maybe the app should do and it doesn't, again, feedback is completely welcome. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this very honest account of what we think Savvy Navvy is like.
And just as a little caveat before we get going, we're not purporting to be professional sailors or even good sailors, to be fair. We're pretty novice at this. We're finding our feet at the same time as learning passage planning and learning the different apps and things. So bear with us. We might not get everything right, and there'll be things that maybe we learn as we go that we'll maybe show you as well. Just thought we'd say that before we get in trouble.
Do not take what we're doing as gospel and think I'm going to do exactly what they do, because we do not want to lead anyone astray.
Anyone astray, exactly. For those of you wondering what Savvy Navvy actually is, here's a quick synopsis. It's like Google Maps, but for boats. At its core, it's a navigation app with global hydrographic charts built in. It allows you to build and follow a route, suggesting the optimum passage plan dependent on the conditions. That's right, it factors in wind and tide to generate a turn-by-turn or tack-by-tack passage plan to your chosen destination. If that's not enough, other features include a departure schedule, marina and anchor information, offline chart and weather function, and the ability to export routes to share on your chart plotter or with friends and family, and a whole lot more. So we're going to start off with giving you a bit of information about the kit that we have, I suppose. We're not going to lie to you and tell you that, we're going to go from Brighton to Falmouth just using the Savvy Navvy app, but maybe that's a challenge for another time. Savvy Navvy, for us, it complements the charts and the data that we've already got on board. So we use the Savvy Navvy app in combination with paper charts and things like this. We'll show you how we do that, and we'll show you how it benefits us. But on the table here, a quick run through of what we've got. So we're using IMRAY charts here. From Brighton to Falmouth, we've got the east side of the English Channel here in larger detail, and then we've got the west side of the English Channel there in larger detail. We've got a bit of a bigger look at the Isle of Wight on this chart, and then we've got all of the charts for all of the, I suppose all of the way down really, Dorset and Devon coast there and the West Country there. So those charts will go into the real detail, all the little places like that that we can get into along the way. We've also got our tidal stream atlas, but the Savvy Navvy app does incorporate tides within it as well, which is quite good. So if you're planning a route from A to B, it will incorporate the amount of tidal, sort of foul tide or fair tide that you're going to be coming up against. So it almost does away with that, but obviously not for us yet. And then we've got a couple of these big hardback books, and this will tell us, this is our sort of pilot book on all of the different marinas and bits and pieces that we might come across here. It gives you that overview there, but on the Savvy Navvy app, we can go into the finer detail. We can see buoys and markers that we see and get more detail on those. So then we use this, we find it on the Savvy Navvy app, and we zoom in and we get the final bits of detail that we need from the Savvy Navvy app. So that's, we'll show you a little bit more about that as we go into it. Okay, so the first thing we do, we've got the big paper chart out, and we've also got the Savvy Navvy app up and running. We are leaving from Brighton, and we're going to head past the Isle of Wight. And we know already that there are some pretty serious tides that rip round here. They also rip around in there. And so we want to get this timed just right. So in doing so, we open the Savvy Navy app and we click on tides straight away. So you can click wherever you want to be and it'll give you the tide and also then the level of tide and the times of when it's up and down, which is great. So then the first thing we want to do is find out when the tide is racing through here and at what time. We want to be sort of heading off probably first thing Saturday morning, and we want to figure out then when the tide is going to be doing what, I suppose. I've just clicked on there the tide, so it gives you the little arrows there, so that might help. And then the arrows get a little bit thicker as the tide runs a bit quicker. We've got tide turning on us, assuming then at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. it's turned the other way at 1.2 knots. We want to get to that point before the tide turns, and so we need to find out, well, how long is it going to take us to get to there before it does, because we don't want to be anywhere near it when it's turned, because we'll be battling against it. We now need to think about 6 hours before that. I guess we would probably have tide going with us, so we could then use this tide to take us to the Isle of Wight, and then maybe hide out the next tide somewhere around here, and then when it turns again, then we can go with the tide around it. So the next thing to do is plan a route. So we've clicked on the route section there, and so our marina is Brighton Marina. We're going to add a waypoint at Brighton Marina, and I think if we do go on the idea that we might come over here and wait out the tide, so let's say, I don't know, click there and we'll add another waypoint there. Let's plot the route and see what we've got. Okay, so it's saying 10 hours. If you go depart at, that won't give you too many days in advance. So it'll only give you 3 or 4 days, only because of it can't factor in the weather. But if then you go to the schedule feature, which will give you an idea of different times when you can depart and how long the journeys will take, you can actually go a bit further into the future with it, but obviously it won't be as accurate because the wind won't be known by that point, I suppose. We want to leave on Saturday the 3rd, so we're going to set that time there, but actually then go to the scheduler and it's going to give you other options of when you can leave. This section is against tide if it's dotted. If it's yellow like these ones are here, it's under the engine and you're sailing if it's a thick line. And then obviously the colours are giving you the strength of the wind. So we're somewhere between 0 and 10 knots of wind at that point, which is not ideal. So now we've got that kind of part of the route plotted out on here. We can take the tides off of this section here and we can put the weather on, and we'll just see then what sort of wind we're going to be getting. And it's it's a sort of dead south or dead southerly wind. And it's not really giving us much at all. So it could be a gentle sail, it could be a motor sail. I do want to just check what we're doing when we get into this Sandown, there you go. When we get into Sandown Bay, you know, on the app you can zoom in a bit further, you can see there's sand bottom there, maybe it's in the name, who knows, and it'll give you the depths like any other chart sort of would. But what it does do is give you the ability to click on sort of markers and buoys, and it will let you know what you're seeing in front of you as you're coming in. You know, if we're coming in at night, it'll give us an idea of, okay, well look, I can see there's one flash every 5 seconds over here, that's got to be that buoy there or that marker, and so on. So then what we're going to do, we're going to come in here. The final thing we will see here is this red light, which is a fixed red light at the end of this pier, and we'll probably anchor somewhere in there next to that.
So we have made a list of the refuge stops that we've got now along the way from Brighton to Falmouth. So we've got Bembridge, Freshwater Bay on the other side of the Isle of Wight, Swanage Bay, Weymouth, Dartmouth, Salcombe, and then Plymouth.
So one of our little bolt holes is Salcombe Estuary, and here is how we will use the Savvy Navy app in combination with the paper charts and also the channel guides and pilotage books here. On our wider view chart here, there's really not much detail about the Salcombe Estuary, but actually in this West Country cruising companion, it does have the enlarged version of that, so we can get into the detail. So if we were to come in here, we'd be thinking, right, well, if it's a quick bolt hole and a quick stop, then we might be looking at some anchorage options, and you'd be looking for the little anchor marks like this one here, or a little bit further up the estuary. So now we open the app and we get into the further detail. So actually, as you zoom in, a couple more options appear, so they're all labeled there, but we'll choose the one that it's showing here in the pilotage book, and we'll get a bit more information. So let's zoom in. Sunny Cove, we've got a rating of 2 stars, and let's have a look. So the mooring type is anchor. Seabed, it's mud and sand. The protection is from the southeast and the east, and it's a beach by dinghy. And then you also got a couple of reviews, or there's one here. So this is really valuable information. So if, well, not to read it all there, but deeper draft boats need to be further out on the 5-meter contour. You'll be between Blackstone and Biddlehead Point, which has a riptide and overfalls in north of bay. So that's, yeah, it's kind of invaluable information that you might think, well, okay, well, instead of choosing that anchorage, then let's look a little bit further up the estuary and pick one of the other ones. It's a really great tool that we are finding really useful. And then also you've got weather and tides for the chosen days that you might be there. Yeah, and if you like the look of it, then you just add a waypoint and then you press GPS, and then you'll be guided there turn by turn on the application. That's, I think, a little use for a combination of charts, pilotage books, things like that, and modern technology. Right, fast forward from our little passage planning piece, and we're now an hour away from slipping our lines and getting underway and heading to Falmouth. So yeah, we're gonna go to Benbridge, or near Benbridge, and a couple of hours of foul tide here. Then we're gonna have 6 hours of fair tide, get us to the nice anchorage at Benbridge, and we should get there in the morning about 7 or 8 o'clock, and we'll anchor there, wait out the foul tide, and then about 4 p.m. We'll pick up the fair tide, and it will whisk us around St Catherine's, and we'll do the rest of the journey from there, 150 nautical miles. That's the plan, but we've got some contingency built in if we get any, if we need it. Yeah. So, after setting off at 1 a.m, we made it to Sandown Bay around 10 a.m, a 9-hour passage. We used Navvy to guide us into the area we had marked out for safe anchorage. This is where we utilised another feature of the Navvy app, the built-in anchor alarm. It's difficult to film during manoeuvres like this, but here's a walkthrough of how the feature works, although recorded whilst safe in a marina. So it gives you the ability to pick the anchor up and move it to where you know the real anchor is located, so you don't have to set it as soon as you drop the hook. This way, you can take the length of chain into consideration more accurately, avoiding guesswork. There is also an angle to anchor feature, allowing you to set a radius of movement or swing that you don't want to exceed. Once the alarm is set, if you move out of the desired zone or away from where you dropped the hook, this will indicate that you are dragging and sound an alarm. All parameters can be set in the app. Luckily, our anchor held firm and we didn't drag. We stayed at Sandown Bay for another 5 hours, waiting out the foul tide before heading off again. We checked the weather forecast and noticed a nasty low front moving in from the Bay of Biscay that would hinder our arrival in Falmouth. So we made the decision to head to Dartmouth instead. Luckily, this was one of our pre-planned bolt holes. We set off at around 3 p.m. on what would be a 22-hour passage. Okay, so the next update on our Navvy review is we're going to show you how we use it to get into different marinas, different harbours and things like that. And so we're just going to come up to the entrance now, but with the River Dart, it's all very windy, and to get up that you need to either have a few waypoints planned or something else. But instead of having to punch in all individual waypoints in order to get up to where we need to be, this is where Navvy takes over for us anyway. We think this is the best way of using it. So we've actually got a Scanstrut Rock wireless charger on the helmet pod here, and I'm now using GPS. I've just put in the route that I want to do is literally just to Nautical Mile Marina at the top there. Navvy automatically populates every waypoint and every turn, and then you just press enter and off you go. And so now we're effectively following the route and the track. So this will get us through all of the little obstacles here. You can zoom right in on these south cardinal markers, make sure we're not getting into any trouble. And this will follow us up turn by turn then, keeping us exactly where we need to be, all the way till we get to the marina. Yes, you know, the chart plotter can do that as well, but you'd have to be sat there punching in, you know, 20, 30 different waypoints all along the journey there. So yeah, that's where it comes into its own. So right, and here's another little section that we wanted to show you. We use Navvy in conjunction with our Raymarine chart plotter, like we've said. Tomorrow we're planning on going from the River Dart in Dartmouth to Salcombe. Yes, it's just quite a quick little journey. We've got certain wind angles and southerly winds, so it's just we need to just kind of come out a little bit east to then come across. And so Navvy knows what direction the wind's going and also the tides, so we can plot the waypoints with that in mind. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to replicate those waypoints and put them onto the chart physically, just by looking at where they are and roughly pointing them in the right places on the chart plotter, so then it's replicated up at the helm. So the journey is as simple as that, and we'll be leaving at 5:30 in the morning tomorrow and arriving at sometime around 9:30. And we've chosen to come right up into the bag, I think. Yeah, the bag is what it's called there. And there's potentially a visitor's pontoon we can jump on when we arrive. So we're saying, okay, well look, as we've said, coming out southeast, and we need to stay right off of this bank here, as it gets a little bit hairy. And we've got a fair breeze tonight, so there's going to be a bit of swell around that we need to avoid. Come out there as close as we can to the wind, and then we'll tack across, and then we'll round up onto the beam here and then jump in there. So we're starting then on the chart plotter, and I'm thinking, well, whereabouts do I place the waypoints? So all I'm going to do is look in here at the Navvy app and think this is bringing us close to that green marker there, and we can see that then replicated here. So I think I'm going to place the start waypoint there. I'm going to build route, and then we're going to look for the next one, and so on. So it's yeah, it's a cool little trick that we've been doing, and you've got the best of both worlds then in your pocket and on your plotter.
We stayed for a week in Dartmouth waiting for a weather window to get us around Start Point and into Salcombe. There were a few more low pressure systems rolling in from the southwest, preventing us from getting to Falmouth. But if we could make it around the point, we'd be past the trickiest bit. We made it to Salcombe in good time and enjoyed a few nights on the visitor pontoon in the bag. This gave us enough time to get the dinghy out and go for an explore.
Right, so we're out on the tender today. and we are using Savvy Navvy to get us up the river safely. We don't draft much because we're a tender. What it's going to help with is just a bit of navigation up the channel, because there's a few little bits that come off, little rivers and things like that, or little estuaries. Just so we don't get lost, I suppose. It's a bit of safety and all the depths and things like that as well. So we just got the app open there. I've just done a navigate to. Obviously it thinks we're in the boat, but we're not, so it's going to try and take us up the narrowest part of the channel. We know at the moment we're on high tide, so we can get up to those other little bits as well. But yeah, it's just going to take us all the way up and in, tell us the depth and tell us where we're going. So yeah, another little key thing to have in your pocket. If you're off the boat, you can still use it, and that's a great feature.
We left Salcombe having planned a route to Falmouth, but we ran into 25 to 35 knot winds and 6 to 8 foot swell on the beam. So we made a detour to Plymouth for a few nights. Conditions improved and we finally made our way to Falmouth, our final destination. This was our longest passage ever at just under 215 nautical miles. We made it! We sailed 250 nautical miles from Brighton to Falmouth.
And we didn't die.
We didn't die! It was our longest passage ever, so we are super excited and really proud of ourselves.
We are.
actually got here.
So, could we have done it without the help of Savvy Navvy?
I don't think so.
Probably. Because people have been sailing the coast of the UK and around the world for years. Centuries. So, yes, of course, we could have done it without the help of Savvy Navvy. But would we have done it with as much confidence? Could we have done it as quickly as we did?
Probably not.
Probably not. We would have spent a lot longer rechecking all of our books and charts and different things like that.
Doing the math.
But the app is a great confidence builder, because when you are putting things down on a paper chart and then you check your phone app and it says the same thing or thereabouts as what you've come up with on your paper chart, you go, well, this must be the right the right thing.
Yeah,
so
you're on the right track.
It's a great tool to use in that respect. And for us, and with the amount of experience that we've got, which is now a lot more than we did when we were speaking to you at the beginning of the episode. So we are still looking for that little bit of reassurance and help.
Peace of mind
that we're on the right track and we're heading in the right direction.
So in this episode, you've seen us using Savvy Navvy in conjunction with our paper charts. We wanted to show you how we get from A to B using the app and which features we found the most helpful. But we promised you an honest review, so here it goes. Here are our top pros and top cons of using the Savvy Navvy app. So, pros. I would say, and I think you agree as well, number one pro is definitely coming in and out of marinas, anchorages and rivers and estuaries, telling us where the marker buoys are, where the danger zones are. It really gives you all the little fine details, and you can literally follow it like you would your car sat nav effectively. Like, it's just for that it is absolutely brilliant. We're quite not totally reliant on it, because obviously you can find that information through going through the charts and writing it all down, but just to kind of have it all in one place, literally up at the helm with you, is amazing.
You pick point A to point B and it just routes it for you, and anything along the way that you might want to know a bit more detail about, you just zoom in, click on it, and it says this is this type of buoy or marker, and this is this type of anchorage, and everything you really need to know. So that last point where you get up to a new place that you've not been to before and everything gets a little bit scary, that's been a real help for us getting ourselves confident in coming into new places. That's definitely the biggest pro for us.
And then other pro is anchorage spots.
Yeah, initially when we left Brighton and we went to Bembridge and we were looking at which way the wind's going and what are our options in terms of safe anchorages, well, there's obviously a few that are listed on charts, and there's a few in the pilotage books and things like that. But there's even more on the app, and there's the ability for people to put their own experiences and data and reviews into those. So you're then getting up to date and current
and honest
and
as
honest,
well.
and that's true. Honest
review
of that area. So you can then make your informed decision of, well, is this somewhere we would like to be? And it could be that this isn't safe in a southerly or westerly or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And that's definitely something that's obviously developing more and more. The more people use it, the more people go on it and actually interact with the app and put their experience down, which is obviously more helpful for others. So
yeah.
Okay, the cons. There's always got to be a little bit of a con, right? So we would say number 1 is probably battery life.
Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest con, but I guess in Savvy Navvy's defense, it is going to be indicative of any phone application or tablet application is battery life. So, the app's only as good as your phone or tablet's battery. If you become dependent on said application, we're out at sea for a few days and you're not going to be able to charge that up if there's a failure in your battery bank on the boat. Things like that do happen, as rare as it sounds. Lightning can strike. So it's it's a two-sided coin, really. You've got people who will swear by the old school way of doing things, and you must know this. Well, you can sail around the world on technology nowadays. You don't need paper charts, really. Like, as in, if you wanted to set off and do it, you don't.
It's controversial.
It's very controversial, because that's the fact. You could do it just on these apps, but would you be safe? Is it advisable? We don't think so.
No.
Because you should always have your paper charts and your backups, as we've just said. Battery life and things like that can get in the way. For the con would be battery life, and it does chew up a little bit of battery when you are using the GPS function whilst following the route. It will get through it. So it's I think the best option would be to download the route that you have and use it offline, and then you're just using the GPS signal, which you'd use on, say, for example, a Google. So you're using a bit, but no more than any other app would use. It is an issue to think about,
Just being conscious of it, isn't it, really? Just being aware.
Yeah.
Charge your phone up, have a battery bank. So the second con, which effectively is also a con in sailing, because I've definitely realised this, is you are not going to get there at the time you may think you will, which sometimes the Savvy Navvy app may tell you you'll be there in 4 hours, and
and you might be there in 6.
Which maybe that's down to our sailing.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not completely Savvy Navvy's fault, but it's just something again to be aware of.
But you can set the settings obviously within the app when you first get it, and you open it up and it says what's your mean sort of boat speed, and it could be 5 or 4 knots or whatever it is. So you just be a bit sparing with that and just sort of go lower. And I think that's it. You put in the parameters that you tell the app to calculate, and it'll only use whatever you've told it. So perhaps we've been a bit over generous with the boat speed or something like that, and it thinks we're going to get there a bit quicker. Or, as with any journey you go through, you're not going to maintain that speed all of the time. Again, it's a con of potentially not Savvy Navvy's fault, but it is something. If you're looking at it and say, it says I'm going to be there at 8 o'clock, off we go.
Think again.
It's a guideline, and maybe just don't bank on being anywhere at a certain amount of time if you're going to sail there, because that's probably rule 101 of sailing.
Just in general of sailing, which I've quickly realised. So we hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we've given you an honest review and overview of the app and our experience of the app. We'll put all the details and links to the Savvy Navvy app in the description below, and I think that's it.
I think that's us.
I think that's all.
Indiana out.